My mouth went dry as Penelope's words pierced through the country club's ambient chatter. Maybe try getting a real job like normal people, she announced, waving her mimosa for emphasis while addressing my father. My hand halfway to my water glass froze in midair as her words registered. The financial report on my phone, showing the completed acquisition of MedTech Corporation, suddenly felt heavy in my pocket. Not just any company. Her company. This consulting nonsense, she continued, oblivious to how the temperature seemed to drop around me. Walking into companies and telling them what to do? Please. Dad stuttered his Eggs Benedict like it contained the secrets of the universe, shoulders hunched in that familiar way that signaled his retreat from conflict. A strange vibration started in my fingertips as the reality crystallized. In exactly 48 hours, I would be walking into Penelope's office, not as the struggling stepdaughter she imagined, but as her new boss. My name is Rachel, I'm 28 and a private equity executive. This is the story of how I transformed from an unemployable consultant to the architect of perfect justice. I grew up watching my father avoid confrontation at all costs. After Mom died when I was 16, Dad's pattern only intensified, seeking peace at any price, even if that price was his own dignity. So when he married Penelope just 6 months ago after a whirlwind romance that began at his retirement party and ended at a Vegas chapel, I wasn't surprised when he began deferring to her judgment about everything, including my career. I like consulting, I said mildly, spreading jam on my toast, fighting to keep my expression neutral. It's flexible. Flexible is code for unemployable, Penelope declared, touching up her lipstick between critiques. She was 15 years younger than Dad, ambitious and obsessed with appearances. David, tell your daughter about real careers, stable careers, like mine in pharmaceutical sales. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Rachel does well for herself, he offered weakly. Does she though? Penelope examined me over her designer sunglasses, her gaze traveling from my simple sundress to my unmanicured nails. That Honda in the parking lot, is that yours? It must be 10 years old. And consulting, what does that even mean? Do you have health insurance? A 401k? A future? Every Sunday brunch had become a variation of this same conversation. Penelope highlighting her corporate success while diminishing whatever I shared about my work. Dad sitting silently, choosing the path of least resistance. What Penelope didn't know, what I had deliberately kept private, was that Sterling Equity, my private equity firm, had just completed the acquisition of MedTech Corporation for pennies on the dollar. The same pharmaceutical company where she'd worked for 12 years. The same company facing billions in lawsuits for their aggressive opioid marketing practices. The same company that would be under my complete control starting Monday morning. I manage, I said, taking a sip of coffee to hide my expression. Managing isn't thriving, sweetie, Penelope leaned forward, her voice dripping with condescension. Look, I get it. Not everyone can handle corporate life. The pressure, the competition, the real responsibility. But maybe try starting somewhere entry-level. I could put in a word at MedTech Corporation. We always need administrative assistance. My pulse quickened as I imagined the scene that would unfold in less than 2 days. The revelation. The recognition. The realization. That's kind of you, I replied. Someone has to look out for you, she continued. Clearly, your father's been too soft, letting you drift through your 30s with no direction. I'm 28. Even worse. These are your prime earning years, she scoffed. While you're consulting, I'm pulling in 6 figures plus bonuses. Just last quarter, I moved $2.2 million in products. That's real contribution to society. Selling opioids is definitely a contribution, I agreed, unable to completely mask my sarcasm. Her face flushed. Pharmaceutical solutions for legitimate pain management, she corrected sharply. And it's honest work. Transparent. Not like showing up at companies and, what do you even do exactly? Different things for different clients. See, that's not a real answer, she pressed. That's what people say when they're embarrassed about their job. Or lack thereof. Dad finally spoke up. Penelope, maybe we could talk about something else. No, David. Someone needs to have this conversation with her. She turned back to me. At your age, I was already regional sales manager. I had a team, a company car, stock options. What do you have? Business cards that say consultant? I don't use business cards, I said quietly. Of course you don't. Too much commitment, right? Like everything else in your generation. The conversation continued its predictable spiral, with Penelope outlining my supposed failures alongside her many successes. The conference in Miami. The promotion she was certain was coming. Regional vice president, she preened. My manager hinted it's in the works. Of course, with my numbers, it's obvious. I've been carrying my team all year. What she didn't know was that I had seen her personnel file during due diligence. As part of the acquisition team, I had full access to HR records and sales reports, which had revealed the falsified call reports. The kickbacks to doctors exceeding federal limits. The pressure tactics on physicians who tried to reduce prescribing. All documented, all waiting like landmines beneath her confident stride toward that promotion that would never come. Monday morning arrived with a series of encrypted messages from my transition team. Security briefed on potential issues. Legal has finalized all documentation. HR ready for system integration. I dressed carefully, not the power suit Penelope would expect from a CEO, but a simple gray pantsuit that said competence without ostentation. The kind of outfit that could blend into any level of corporate hierarchy until you noticed the details. The perfect tailoring. The $800 shoes that looked like they cost $80. The watch that appeared normal until you recognized the Patek Philippe movement. MedTech headquarters occupied a gleaming tower in the financial district. I'd been there before during due diligence, but always after hours with the acquisition team. This was my first time walking through the front door during business hours. Name? The security guard asked. Rachel Taylor, I replied. I have a 9 a.m. with the transition team. He checked his list, did a double take, checked again. Miss Taylor, the new CEO. Yes. Welcome. Let me get you a badge and escort. No escort necessary, I said. I know where the conference room is. The executive elevator required a special key, which the guard provided with shaking hands. As I rose to the 20th floor, I thought about Penelope, probably somewhere in the building right now, preparing for her Monday morning sales meeting, with no idea her world was about to shift. The conference room was packed with legal teams, HR directors, department heads, and the outgoing leadership. They stood when I entered, corporate reflex when power walks in. Good morning, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. Let's begin. The next 2 hours were a blur of presentations and strategic adjustments. I'd done this before with other acquisitions, but MedTech was special. Not just because of Penelope, but because the company represented everything wrong with pharmaceutical sales: aggressive marketing, questionable ethics, profits over patients. The sales restructuring, my CFO said, sliding a document across the table. We'll be eliminating several regional positions and refocusing on ethical prescribing practices. Which regions? Southwest primarily. That's where the most aggressive tactics have been documented. Penelope's region. At 11 a.m., word went out. All hands meeting in the main auditorium. Mandatory attendance. The rumors had been flying since security guards started updating access badges. MedTech's 3,000 employees filed in with the nervous energy of people who knew change was coming. I watched from backstage as Penelope entered with her sales team, still confident, still checking her phone for client messages that would never be answered. She'd chosen a seat in the middle, visible enough to be seen as a player, not so front as to seem eager. From my position in the wings, I could clearly see her through the partially opened curtain as I prepared to take the stage. The outgoing CEO made brief remarks about exciting transitions and new directions before introducing me. I walked onto the stage to polite, confused applause. Most employees had no idea who I was. To them, I probably looked like another consultant. Good morning. I'm Rachel Taylor, managing partner of Sterling Equity and your new CEO. The shock rippled across the audience. I could pinpoint the exact moment Penelope recognized me, her face cycling through confusion, recognition, and dawning horror. I know change is unsettling, I continued, but I want to be transparent about our direction. I outlined the vision: ethical practices, sustainable growth, accountability for past mistakes. Then the hard part. Effective immediately, we are restructuring our sales division. The days of pushing volume over patient welfare are over. Some positions will be eliminated. Others will be retrained. Anyone who can't adapt to ethical selling has no place in our future. The auditorium buzzed with tension. I could see Penelope from the stage, her body rigid, knuckles white against the armrest of her seat. I'll be meeting with each department this week, I continued. My door is open. I believe in leading by walking around, not hiding in an executive suite. You might see me in the cafeteria, the sales floor, even the parking garage. Because real leadership means understanding every level of the organization. Then I opened the floor for questions. Hands shot up and I answered honestly. About layoffs, minimal if people adapted. About direction, ethical but profitable. About my background, private equity with a focus on distressed assets. Then Penelope stood. Even from the stage, I could see her hands shaking. Do you have pharmaceutical experience? Her voice carried across the auditorium, a tremor barely concealed beneath the challenging tone. I have experience identifying what's broken and fixing it, I replied evenly. In MedTech's case, what's broken is the culture that prioritizes sales over ethics. The lawsuits speak for themselves. But sales drive revenue, she protested, a desperate edge to her voice. Lawsuits drive bankruptcy, I countered. We are facing $2.3 billion in potential litigation from aggressive opioid marketing. That stops now. She sat down hard. Around her, colleagues were already distancing themselves, the corporate survival instinct kicking in. After the all-hands meeting concluded, I made my way from the auditorium to the sales floor where Penelope's manager was already in crisis mode. I took the elevator up 3 floors and walked briskly through the open-plan office space. Miss Taylor, he practically ran to intercept me. About the sales restructuring, my team has always operated within guidelines. Has it? Records show your region has the highest rate of prescriber kickbacks, dinners, trips, consulting fees that are barely disguised bribes. That's industry standard. I corrected him. Past tense. Behind him, I could see Penelope at her desk, frantically pulling files, probably trying to hide evidence of the very practices I'd already documented. I need all regional managers in conference room C in an hour, I told him. We'll discuss who stays and who goes. The meeting was brutal. I laid out the evidence, falsified call reports, kickbacks disguised as speaker fees, pressure tactics on doctors who tried to reduce prescribing. 3 managers were terminated on the spot. 2 others accepted demotions to sales rep positions with retraining requirements. Penelope tried to defend herself. These were approved strategies, she insisted, her voice rising. Corporate new. Previous corporate. I'm current corporate, I replied calmly, and I don't approve. You can't just come in and destroy everything we've built. I can when what you've built is facing federal investigation. Did you think the lawsuits would just disappear? That patients dying from pills you pushed wouldn't have consequences. I was following orders. And now you're following new ones. Effective immediately, you're on administrative leave pending investigation into your sales practices. Investigation? For what? She demanded, but her voice had lost its edge. I pulled up her file on the conference room screen. Falsifying call reports. Providing kickbacks exceeding federal limits. Pressuring physicians to prescribe beyond medical necessity. Should I continue? Her face had gone pale. I need this job. My car lease, my condo. The BMW you lease to impress clients? The condo you bought with bonuses from pushing pills. I let the question hang in the air. Maybe you should have thought about sustainability. Real jobs, as you called them, come with real accountability. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You built a life on other people's misery. Now it's crumbling. That's not my fault or my problem. Security escorted her out 20 minutes later, cardboard box in hand. The great pharmaceutical sales success story reduced to a security escort and a damaged reputation. That evening, after returning to my apartment from MedTech headquarters, Dad called. Rachel, what happened? Penelope came home in tears. Something about her company being taken over. Sterling Equity acquired MedTech, I explained. I'm restructuring to avoid bankruptcy from the lawsuits. Silence. Then, Sterling Equity, that's your company. One of them. But you said you were a consultant. I am. I consult with the companies I buy to make them profitable and ethical. It's very fulfilling work. Penelope's been put on leave. She says you targeted her. I targeted unethical sales practices. She happened to be one of the worst offenders. You could have warned us. When? During brunch when she was explaining how I needed a real job? While she offered to get me an interview for an entry-level position at the company I just bought. This is cruel, Rachel. No, Dad, I said firmly. Cruel is pushing addictive drugs to make quota. Cruel is mocking your stepdaughter for career choices you don't understand. This is consequence. She could lose everything. Then she'll understand what the families of opioid victims lost. Perspective can be educational. He hung up. I wasn't surprised. Dad always chose the path of least resistance, and right now, that meant supporting his wife's victim narrative. Over the following months, MedTech transformed. We settled the major lawsuits, retrained the sales force, and pivoted to non-addictive pain management solutions. Revenue dropped initially but stabilized as hospitals began trusting our ethical approach. Penelope's investigation concluded after 3 months. It revealed exactly what I'd suspected: falsified reports, illegal kickbacks, and pressure tactics that bordered on criminal. She avoided prosecution by agreeing to a lifetime ban from pharmaceutical sales and forfeiting her bonuses. 2 weeks after the investigation closed, Penelope filed for divorce from my father, citing irreconcilable differences, and moved out of their shared home. The last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a medical clinic. Entry-level, as she'd recommended for me. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Dad and I didn't speak for 6 months after that difficult phone call. When we finally had coffee at a small cafe near my office, he looked older, tired. "She left me," he said simply. "Said I should have warned her about you." "Warned her about what?" "That I'm successful." "That you're formidable," he replied. "She thought you were a failure." I let her think it because it was easier than explaining. "Explaining what?" "That my daughter built a private equity empire by 28. That the consulting she mocked was actually corporate turnarounds worth billions. That the old Honda was a choice, not a necessity. Would she have been nicer if she'd known?" He laughed bitterly. "Probably. But that's the point, isn't it? She showed you exactly who she was when she thought you were nobody. And I let her." "I'm sorry," he added after a moment. "Are you? Or are you just sorry she's gone?" "Both," he admitted, "but mostly sorry I didn't defend you. Your mother would be ashamed of me. Mom would understand. She always said you avoided conflict. She also said you inherited her backbone," he smiled faintly. "Guess she was right. We rebuilt slowly, Dad and I." Without Penelope's toxic influence, he remembered how to be proud of his daughter's accomplishments instead of apologizing for them. He even started bragging about my work to his golf buddies. "My daughter? Oh, she's in private equity. Buys broken companies and fixes them. Very boring stuff unless you like making millions while improving lives." As for me, I kept the Honda. It runs perfectly, gets great gas mileage, and reminds me that real success doesn't need to announce itself. It just walks into conference rooms and changes everything. Sometimes wearing a simple sundress, sometimes carrying a cardboard box.